All right, this is an area that's really noteworthy because these houses, beautiful houses behind me, all the way down. There's a whole row of them going down. This is St. Mary's Street. All right, at the edge of St. Mary's Park. And all these used to be big buildings here. You know, it's all six-story buildings that I was mentioning earlier that were burned down. This is what it looks like now. And we'll flash a picture in a minute about how they looked before, because they used to be like this. That building is actually no building, but that one is a sole survivor. When they renovated that one, actually no, that building was probably rebuilt. Yeah, but it's not new though. That's been there for a long time. But this is like, the buildings used to be like that though, and they had courtyards. Some of them had courtyards right in the middle. They were huge structures, and there was like a big area in the middle of them. You know, so, but that's what more or less that it used to look like. But some of them had bigger courtyards. But you see the way it looks now, and this is all family now. It's not like that, it wasn't like that back then. In those days, this was all devastated. All these buildings were burnt down, and eventually they were rubble. And then out of the rubble, this is what sprouted up. You know, so you see the South Bronx is not it's not devastated anymore. You know, and you'll see very little devastation here, and there are some areas that are worse than others. But even the worst areas are not as bad as they used to be. You don't see all these burned buildings down, you know, row by row anymore. Bronx has come a long way, especially the South Bronx, which is really where most of the devastation was. Because if you went all the way uptown in the Bronx, it wasn't like that, you know. But then again, you know, it was not minorities up there. For the most part, it was middle class, working families, you know, Irish, Italian, you know, things like that. And the only Hispanics that lived there were Hispanics that were educated, that got out of the South Bronx. So that was the goal, to escape the South Bronx, you know, for a lot of people, but not for all. Some people.
But you say the South Bronx. How about the North Bronx?
That's what I'm saying. The North Bronx wasn't as devastated. It was not like the South Bronx, the North Bronx.
Okay.
North Bronx, you know, was like where Co-op City is and things like that. Okay. And it was a lot better kept, and families with money, you know, so. But you have poor people is where that was happening. When people have money, that doesn't happen because the city takes better care of them. So the city and the government pretty much abandoned us. Okay, and left us living in squalor for many, many years. So these are things that are noteworthy, that are part of history. If you Google it, you'll see, you know, even when Jimmy Carter came the first time when he was president, he came to the South Bronx and he said he's going to rebuild, he said he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And he didn't do shit. He came back later, you know, and was an advocate for rebuilding the Bronx and stuff like that. But, you know, all those presidents from years past, they abandoned us. You know, and those of us who grew up here, you know, we learned how to survive. And it was through the dancing that a lot of us did survive. You know, because, let's face it, this was all ridden with gangs. In every different neighborhood, there was different gangs. And there were some gangs that were bigger than others. But life was different back then, in them days. But it was a simpler time as well. Because within the culture, you know, you didn't see a whole lot of fighting going on in the culture and among the boroughs and stuff like that. It was pretty much, there was a lot of unity, and there was a lot of love, you know, and in the clubs. We went out there and we had a great time, and we partied 7 days a week. Nowadays, there's a lot of segregation, and there's division, and there's a lot of indifference and hating going on, and it's ugly to me. Back in my days, it wasn't like that. The dancing is really, what the beauty of it was that it was so powerful in the music that it lifted our spirits, you know, and we aspired to be dancers. And that's what kept us off the streets, because when I became a dancer, it kept me off the streets. I was always rehearsing. We had a studio up on 149th Street at 333 East 149th Street for the Latin Symbolics Dance Company, which is the company I danced for, which was the first professional urban, you know, professional dance company. And with George Frescones, may he rest in peace, who was also my sensei, taught me martial arts. I mean, I already knew martial arts by the time I got to him, but, you know, that's where I got my first.
Wait, the Latin Symbolics. Were there? Was it like a band and a dance group?
No, the Latin Symbolics was a dance company, and we had dances in all styles of dance.
But they're still around. Okay.
Well, there's a Latin Symbolics now. They're based out of San Francisco, and it's not the same.
So why do they use the same name?
They use the same name to pay tribute to the original Latin Symbolics, And one of the original Latin symbolics was the one that started it with, her name is, what's her name? Rose, I believe it is. And she's like the one that heads up the Latin symbolics in San Francisco. And I spoke with her. She's coming to New York next month. And she's going to come and meet with me because I asked her, where did you get that name from? And she told me, well, we got it because this guy that danced with the symbolics, and I lived in New York as well, and to pay tribute to the original Latin symbolics. I said, oh, that's interesting. And I told her I was an original member of the Latin symbolics, and we had a really great conversation, you know.
But still, I don't know if you can use another.
Well, you know, the name was never really registered like that. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday about registering the name, but she has it, and she's doing a great job with it. You know, her dance company is a good team. You know, they dance a lot of salsa stuff. Well, we danced a little bit of everything. We did salsa, mambo, we did hustle, we did rock, we did modern jazz, tap. There was a bunch of different dances in our dance company, and certainly the best urban dancers from throughout the city were members of the Latin Symbolics Dance Company. You know, and I can name a bunch of them. A lot of them are still alive, they're still around. As a matter of fact, we're having a reunion next month at Orchard Beach. So that's why we used to hang out on Saturdays sometimes, on Sundays, in Section 5, you know. Look at this kid fishing as he's walking down the street. Come here. He's fishing, walking down the street. Hey, got you on film, buddy. We got him on film. He's walking down the street.
There you go.
Anyway, you see the area now? See all these private houses with their little backyards and stuff like that. It was not like this. This whole area was devastated. And as a matter of fact, this street here, this is Beekman. This street, my cousin got killed right at the end of the street here in 1988. They shot him in front of his 5-year-old son, a drug dealer. And this whole block used to be really, really bad. You know, now you have, and that store's been there, those buildings in the corner right there, and that little building has been there for a long time.
When did all the rebuilding start to build?
Oh, many years ago, like back in the 90s, when they started rebuilding all this stuff here in the 90s. And, you know, in the 90s, yeah, because in the 80s, this place was pretty much still devastated, you know. And you see that old church way down at the end down there. It's like an old church. There's still some buildings that were just renovated, but very, very few. There's not a whole lot of original buildings still standing. You know, there are some, but not very many. Like I said, this whole area here, going down from where we were up there on Jackson Avenue, down St. Mary Street, and you can see all these little private houses now. But all this stuff here, wherever you see a private house, there used to be once a 6th floor, you know, building in its place. You know. And then you can see even that big building in the background back there that has 19 floors. That building wasn't there. That was another place where there was a couple of, you know, smaller buildings there. And then they started building those. And even the one to the left of it here, that wasn't there either. You know. I mean, even though that one's older than the other one, that was once, you know, like you know, a regular building complex that was burned out. So, a lot of history here in the South Bronx, you know, and a lot of things that used to happen here back in the days, and they were commonplace. And life was different back then, but it was simpler as well. And even though we lived in poverty and in devastation, you know, we found a way to rise from the ashes, because we did. Literally, we were probably like the children of the damned. That's the way I look at it, you know. But now, as you can see, his family. I once bumped into Willie Colon over here. He's a famous artist. You know who Willie
Does
Colon
he live
is, right?
here?
Yeah, he grew up here.
Ah.
Yeah, so he pulled up right here. I was sitting here in the car with my friend, just talking, and he pulled up in front of us, and he came out the car with his son Anthony. And it just so happens, I know him for years, but his son's name is Anthony. My best friend who's with me, his name is Anthony. So it was Willie and Anthony. So we started just chatting away, and he was telling his son about how when he grew up here and things like that. So it was pretty cool, you know. But
That's nice.
you see now those buildings at the end over there were also renovated. The ones to the left over there, and those were there for a long time too. But those were well kept and they were renovated. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let's try to.